In today's video, I'm going to give you a bit of a channel update as well as an important announcement. So I'm just jumping onto YouTube today to give you a bit of a channel update. I'm sitting down today, so a bit sneaky of me, but my legs are aching because I did a Kung Fu workshop on Sunday and I'm still feeling the pain even though it's Wednesday. So I don't want anyone to panic. Absolutely nothing about the main channel is changing. I just want to give you some updates about some other stuff I'm doing, about some new channel memberships that you can grab. I'll also be giving you an update on the sort of content that's coming up here on the YouTube channel. This is just a chatty video. We're just having a chat. So not only am I sitting down, but there won't be any pictures or anything inserted. So if you want to just listen podcast style, that's absolutely fine. You can get on with your housework and just listen to me. There's no need to sit there and stare at my middle-aged face for however many minutes unless you absolutely feel the need to do so. So let's get on and give you a few updates about what's going on with the channel. Now, in many of my older videos, you will hear me ask you to join my Patreon. Most of you know what Patreon is. It's a membership site and you can pay to get extra content and extra videos. And although those videos were hosted on YouTube, they were never part of my YouTube channel. You'll notice I'm speaking in the past tense because I have, over the last few months, been transitioning off of Patreon and this week have left Patreon completely. Now, any of you who were subscribed on Patreon will have got a very long video explaining why I'm leaving Patreon. I'll give you a quick overview here. So there were three main reasons. The first one was financial, in that the footage takes so much longer to film than YouTube footage and yet brings in a fraction of the income. Always when filming videos like this where I'm just chatting to you, they're really quick to edit. I mean, relatively quick, sort of 2 hours for a 20-minute video is still a thing. But videos where I do a step-by-step tutorial and I have to literally follow the pencil around the paper or the paintbrush, those take absolutely ages to edit. Indeed, my Patreon tutorials were taking longer than my YouTube videos to edit. And as I said, they were bringing in much less money. The second reason is the lack of functionality on Patreon. I was very, very frustrated with that site. It's really difficult to see who's on what level, who's paying what. They don't even have the function to refund people. For example, if you were a member of my Patreon community, I needed to give you a refund, I might have to contact you privately and get your PayPal address or your bank details. Very, very long-winded, and it wouldn't seem very professional. The other thing that I disliked about Patreon was the impossibility of organising my tutorials. When you do a tutorial in several parts and there's a photograph to download to go along with it, maybe some other supplementary materials, you really want to have some kind of menu. You want to gather those tutorials under headings so that people can access them easily, so that people can find past content easily, and none of that was possible on Patreon. Now, to be clear, Patreon is still a good platform. It suits some people, it suits some people's content. I'm actually going to be helping a friend of mine to set up her cat charity on Patreon soon, but that's a little bit different. She won't have complex tutorials that she's trying to organise. The third reason I left Patreon is that I just found it impossible to have time to do my own paintings. And although I tried to make my own paintings the Patreon content, which sometimes worked, it's actually really difficult for me because my paintings are large. They're quite difficult to get on camera. If I'm painting one of my paintings and also filming it, I can't move around the board. I'm very small. Sometimes I have to get up and walk around my drawing board or turn it around. That's very difficult if you're filming. There's also the issue of having to draw much, much darker for a YouTube or a Patreon tutorial, because people can't see faint pencil lines on screen. But then as an artist, you're left with these very dark pencil lines that it may be hard to remove. Lastly, when you're filming a tutorial, there's absolutely no chance of failure. If you've already put out the first 2 parts, you're not going to take any risks with that piece of work, nor do you have the option of just abandoning it or saying, well, that didn't work out. In short, it stifles the creativity. So I decided to transition off of Patreon, and I have instead turned on YouTube channel memberships. But the YouTube channel memberships are going to give you content that's quite different to Patreon. So do keep watching, because I'm going to explain what you get on YouTube channel memberships if that's something that interests you. Not only is it different to Patreon, but it's much, much more affordable. I'm also going to tell you how you can access those step-by-step tutorials such as I had on Patreon if that's the sort of content you want. And as I said, I'm also going to talk about what we're going to have on this free YouTube channel, which just carries on as before. I'm not going to put less content on here because I'm opening up channel memberships. The memberships are just an optional extra for those of you who feel that that would suit you. So let's talk next about what I offer on there. So most of you know that colour is one of my big passions. It's something that I've always had an affinity for, and I've been involved actually with several companies and also done illustration projects all about colour mixing and colour design. So I've designed paints for 2 different companies. I used to work with the SAA. I'm now working with Jackman's Art Materials. I've designed my own sets of paints. I've designed colours for other brands. I've also designed colour mixing charts and colour mixing guides to help people understand how to mix their watercolour paints. Now, one of the things that I designed was a set of colour mixing posters. Now, they used to be on Etsy and people are always emailing me saying, Michelle, can you restock those? Can you do those colour mixing posters again? And what we had was we had 100 recipes, or rather 100 colours. We had 300 recipes because for each colour, I gave you 3 ways of mixing it, and people love those charts, but the difficulty for me is it's just not financially viable to produce them. Printing things like that and getting the colours right, really, it's a lot of technology and it costs a lot of money. And with the increases in postal prices, not just here, but in America, where most of my stuff goes to, it's just prohibitively expensive. I think I said prohibitive. I can't say that word. I'm not going to try it a second time because although I didn't get it right, in my head, I know what I'm meaning. And I think if I try it again, I'm just going to make it worse. Anyway, too expensive. The colour mixing charts are too expensive to produce. So what I want to do is I want to have a colour mixing academy here on YouTube. So what we're going to do with the channel memberships, if you have a look, there's a join button below all of my videos now. You'll notice that YouTube have turned that on. If you click that, you'll get a little drop down thing. You can do that later and have a look if you want. You're not committing to anything by pressing join. It'll just come up with options for you. What I want to do is make a whole academy around mixing colours. So there's actually 2 levels on the YouTube channel memberships. Now, the first one is just a really, really low level for those who just want to contribute a small amount. And some people do contribute here on YouTube, which I'm very, very grateful for. There's also a donate button on videos. So you can donate to me or other YouTubers. If you watch a video that's particularly helpful, you want to donate $1 or $10 or whatever it is, then that is available to you. But if you want to donate something on a regular basis, just to say thank you for the free content here on YouTube, you can pick that lower level. You will get some exclusive community posts. You'll also get polls. You'll also get some cool things like emojis and membership badges, and that's an option for you. But on the top level, and it's still really, really affordable, it comes out just over $10 US. You can join my Colour Mixing Academy, and what you get is an extra video each week. So let me tell you about the videos that will be available to you. And as I said, this is taking nothing away from my main channel. This is just extra content, and we will indeed still have colour mixing videos on the main channel too. But memberships give me a chance to dive deeper into things, because the good thing about any membership site, whether it's Patreon or YouTube or anywhere else, it enables me to not have to worry about the algorithm. So you're paying for content. So really I can make the content that you want. Now on the main channel, I have to worry about the algorithm. For example, if I put out a video that's a really long, complex step-by-step tutorial, an hour-long painting, I can hear some of you already saying, please do that, Michelle. I assure you, those videos do not do well. Now, it doesn't matter if 300 of you come into the comments and say, oh, but we really want that content. I know that you do. But the algorithm doesn't lie. And as a YouTuber, I have access to very, very advanced statistics. I can go and look, and immediately I see that the click-through rate on such a tutorial is lower. And of course it will be lower, because if I say to you, well, I'm going to give you 10 amazing color mixing tips, you're going to go click. Whereas if I say to you, I've got an hour-long landscape tutorial, you're going to say, well, that's nice. Maybe I'll do that at the weekend, which does affect the click-through rate, and that affects the statistics, which means that the video gets pushed out less, which means less people see it, and it all goes down from there. So membership sites and online courses allow me to give you the content that you want without having to worry about the algorithm. So what are we going to have on the new Colour Mixing Academy? Well, the first thing I'm going to be doing is really working through those colour mixing posters that I made and making specific colour recipes. So I want you to get really used to the paints that you have in your box, because my work is always all about options, and I want to give you multiple ways to mix the same colour. I want to help you to build a wardrobe or a catalogue of swatches so that you can always find the colour that you need to mix and you've got a recipe available for it, and to give you clarity so you stop being confused about which colours to choose. We'll also be doing some real life color matching. So just like in last week's video, and if you didn't see that one, I'll link to it in the description of this one. But just like in last week's video, I'm going to be matching specific colors. So we might, for example, choose a sky, and I'll show you how to match those exact colors in that sky. It might be a cloud shadows, maybe it's a flower or a leaf. Or we might be examining the shadows on a building and seeing what color those shadows really are and how you would mix that shadow. And it's not just technical information. So the more you see me do this, the more you see me talk out loud about the decisions I'm making, about the colors I'm choosing, about the reasons I'm mixing, the more you will gain confidence to mix your own colors. So you won't need me in your head at every second of the day. You'll be able to make your own choices and get your colors right. Because getting the right colours is second only, in my opinion, to drawing accurately, in getting your work to look how you want it to look. Now, you don't always want to match a colour exactly. Of course, that's a skill that is really important to be able to do. But you may also have an idea in your head of how you want a piece of work to look and the sort of palette you want to create it in. So I want to give you the ability to actually make those decisions as well, and to get the thing that's in your brain onto the paper, to get the palette of colours, whether it's muted or whether it's bright, out of your brain and onto the paper. And for those colour matching videos, we may be using photographs. We'll also be using real objects so that we can match those things. So anything, as I said, from a terracotta pot to a car to a marigold flower. I want you to be able to mix anything that you come up against in the real world and in your real life painting situations. Another type of video that will be on the channel is, I don't want to call them technical videos because that sounds so cold and so difficult and so scientific, but you do need a little bit of knowledge about things like primary colours, the meaning of things like red shade and green shade, granulation. All of these things have to be discussed because they do affect the colours that you choose. Even just simple things like drying times and the amount of water that you need to use to get the right colours. We'll be discussing all of those as well. And finally, in the Colour Mixing Academy, we'll be doing brand comparisons. So what we'll be doing is we'll be taking one colour, and the colour we're going to start with actually is green gold. Now, Daniel Smith has a beautiful green gold. It's one of my favourites. But is it better than the Winsor & Newton version or any other version? We're going to find out. So, of course, I can't compare 30 different brands on the channel. It would be too expensive and too time consuming. So which brands am I going to be comparing? Well, I will be using the Jackman's Art Materials colours, at least where they have a specific colour, because certain colours are only available in certain brands. So I'll be using Jackman's just because I work with them and I get sent a lot of their paints. I'll also be using a fair amount of Talon's Rembrandt. Again, I have a lot of these colours because it's one of the first brands that I chose. Very underrated brand, actually, really very good paints. I'll also be trying to swatch Daniel Smith and Winsor & Newton every week because certainly here in the UK and possibly worldwide, they are the top two brands. And so we'll be comparing 3, possibly 4 of the top brands of watercolours in each colour, maybe even more if I happen to have those paints already, because I want you to go to the art shop or to shop online with complete confidence. I want you to know that the colour you're choosing is exactly what you want. Because in the top brands, there are no bad paints. I'm not going to tell you that one brand is good and one brand is bad. I'm going to tell you that this brand is more transparent, this brand is more opaque, this brand has more granulation, this brand has less granulation. This green gold is more on the yellow end of the spectrum, this green gold is more greenish. And all of these experiments and swatches are going to help you to choose the right colours. Now for me, I'm really, really excited about these new videos that I get to make. The videos are going to be quite short, maybe 5 to 10 minutes in length. As I said, if you choose the second level on the channel memberships join button, then you get to enter the Colour Mixing Academy. You get your 1 extra video per week. And along with me, you get to build your knowledge on colour mixing, colour selection, gain absolute clarity and confidence, and always be able to choose the right colours for your paintings. So if this is something that interests you, click the join button below this video or any other video on my channel and you can find out more. I do hope that you'll join me for this new project. Next, I'm going to talk about what's coming up this year on the free channel. I'm also going to tell you where and how you can access those longer, full-length, step-by-step tutorials and courses if you're interested in those. So coming up this year on the YouTube channel, we have some more of these very popular top 10 best of type videos. Now, I know you all like them because you all click them so fast, and it's really fun, isn't it, just to watch a list of hints and tips that will really quickly help you to make some gains. So we're going to be doing those, and the next one I've got coming up, as I said, is going to be top 10 planning tips for watercolour. Also going to have tips on landscapes, on florals, lots of different subjects, and some motivational stuff too, because that's always really popular as well. Forgive me looking down at my piece of paper. Right, we're going to have some colour mixing stuff here on YouTube. So it won't be as in-depth as it were. We won't be diving into one particular colour because I'm going to put that on the Colour Mixing Academy. But there's certainly going to be some more broad colour mixing stuff, as I know that's something that is really important to you. I don't want to, take that content away from the YouTube channel and put it all under a paywall. So that's not going to happen. So we are going to have colour mixing stuff here on the main channel still. The next thing we're going to have is painting tutorials. So as I said, long step-by-steps don't do well on this channel, but we will be having some small step-by-steps. I did one recently where I did the background and then I did a flower, and you all enjoyed that very, very much. We'll be having more stuff like that. Most of the painting stuff will be watercolor based, as it's really popular on my channel, but we're also going to have some watercolor pencils. Definitely going to have some pen and wash because I know that's really, really popular with all of you. I'll probably do some gouache as well. Somebody asked me the other day for watercolour with charcoal on the top, and I thought how fantastic. I actually made a painting like that once. I learned so much. So we're going to be having some little step-by-step tutorials rather than, a full painting. We might just have an object or a sky, a leaf, something like that, just to help you build up those skills. Lastly, on the channel, we will be having more drawing content because drawing has been so popular on this channel, which is something that really, really surprised me. I came on YouTube to teach watercolor painting and you're all interested in drawing, which is fantastic. Of course, I've always taught drawing, but I always taught drawing because it's necessary for painting. But it's really, really exciting to me that you're all interested in drawing. So, do let me know if there are any particular subjects you would like me to draw for you. So we'll be doing drawing content too, and not just in graphite pencil. I'm quite happy to draw in pen, charcoal, any other mediums that you're interested in. And as I said, with the drawing content and the watercolor content, we may go into a little bit of mixed media here and there because that's something I've always incorporated in my own work. So that's what's coming up on the channel this year. Now, lastly, let me tell you how to find complex step-by-steps like I had on Patreon and like I have on my online courses website. So if you click certainly any of the more recent YouTube videos, and I do need to go back on the very, very old videos and update the video descriptions, but if you click on any of the more recent ones that have been up in the last year or so, you can go through to my Thinkific site, which is where I have all my online courses. So on there, I have big courses. So I have a beginner's watercolor course and I have a beginner's drawing course. I have a watercolor pencils course. Now that one's all about flower painting. I do actually have plans to make another watercolor pencils course, which is going to be more basic watercolors, going to cover a wider subject range and also more basic principles of watercolor pencils. Later this spring, I'll also be having a sort of a basic landscape course, going to be elements of landscape painting. So I think you'll find that one very exciting too. Also on the Thinkific page, I have mini courses. So a mini course is basically following along a full painting with me. It's what we did on Patreon. You get 3 or 4 videos, you get a materials list and you get a source photo to work from, and you can follow right the way through a full painting with me. Now, some of those tutorials that are on there are one-off tutorials. Some of them are Patreon content that was put up on Patreon and then a few months later was turned into a mini course. I do have some Patreon tutorials. They're not all suitable, but some Patreon tutorials that were on in the last year or so will be made into mini courses. There will also be new mini courses, so I'll be putting up new full paintings as I do them. As I said, it gives me the freedom now that I don't have to film every single painting I make. But when I do have a painting which is easily filmable and which I think will make a really good step-by-step tutorial, I'll be putting that up as a mini course. Now, mini courses at the moment, most of them, there are some higher priced ones for various reasons, but most of them are $18 US. And when they first come out, they're half price. So I normally issue them at just $9, which is incredibly cheap. Now, you'll only get that discount if you're either in my Facebook group or you're subscribed to my weekly newsletter. If you want to subscribe to the newsletter, the easiest thing to do is to send me an email and fill in the form that's on the front page of my website. You don't even have to write anything, just write your name and I'll know you want to go on the newsletter list. Do be careful if you have previously unsubscribed from the newsletter. I'm physically not allowed to put you back on because of rules about spamming and things like that. So if you have previously unsubscribed, you'd like to start getting that again, then you're just going to have to email me personally and let me know and I'll tell you how to do that, because you can add yourself back on the mailing list. I can't add you in. And those emails only come out once a week on a Saturday, unless I've got some kind of sale on, and then you may get 2, absolute maximum 3 emails per week, but generally it's just 1 email on a Saturday. It reminds you about the latest YouTube video, anything else I've got going on. We have a little chat about art as well, so that's well worth grabbing. Or, of course, another way to find out about discounts on courses is to be a member of my Facebook group, which has got exactly the same name as this YouTube channel. Just click join and I will let you in. So, We've had quite a long chat, haven't we? This is an update on everything that's going on. I do hope you'll consider joining my Colour Mixing Academy. If you click the join button below this video, then you can find out all about that. This is an extra video this week, so you'll still get your usual video on Friday, and I look forward to seeing you in that video.